Well, now we're continuing on with our discussion from section 2.1 on basic equations and percentages. In this case, let's get to the percentages. So let's start with the phrase, how would you translate the phrase 23% of a number? Why don't you pause your video for a moment and see if you can write up an expression for that, and I'll wait. Okay, so what do we mean by 23% of a number? 23% of a number. Well, a number, if you recall from our last section, meant some value. And we said, well, if we didn't know what the number was, we were going to call that number x. So now we're saying, well, what would 23% of x look like? How would we write that out? Well, 23% written numerically, we usually write this. So 23% of x. Is that how we translate the phrase? Well, not exactly. When we say percent of, we're going to translate that as we're going to be doing some sort of multiplication. Well, what sort of multiplication? Well, here we go. 23% is the same thing, don't forget, as 0.23. Why? Well, 23%, if we think about it, thinks that it's the fraction 23 out of 100. But anytime we write a number like 23 out of 100, that is the decimal 0.23. So what we're going to be doing if we say 23% of a number is that we're actually going to write 0.23 and multiply that result by x. When I say 23% of a number, that is my translation of that. Okay, so now that we know something about percentages here, let's set up a basic percentage. How does a basic percentage work? Well, basic percentage is something that goes like this. They'll tell you in the textbook, P times B equals A. And how do we interpret that? Well, P is some percentage times the base. The base is a number that we are taking a percentage of, and that's going to give us some amount. In our example above, we were saying 0.23 times x was 23% of x, so our percent was 23. And we were taking that times our base, x. Now, we didn't know what x amount was, so we wouldn't be getting an amount. But if we knew what x was, we could multiply that percentage times that base and get the amount of x. That was 23% of it. In this case, what are we saying? Well, if we say is a word that means equals in math-ese, in algebra-ese. So if you're going to be speaking the language of algebra, we're saying, all right, 40 is a result of taking 83 1/3% of something. So we're taking some percentage here. We're saying 83 1/3% of some base is going to give us 40. Okay, 83 1/3%. I'm not sure I like going through the whole decimal rewrite of that. So let's try something here. How could we rewrite 83 1/3% most efficiently to make it easy for us to interpret? Well, I'll show you what I did. Okay, if I have a fraction 83 1/3, right, in a mixed fraction, change a mixed fraction into an improper fraction first. And in my world, anytime I'm dealing with a mixed fraction, I don't like that. So how do I do it? Well, that means I'm going to take 83 times 3. 83 times 3. And we know that 83 times 3, let's see, 3 times 3 is 9. 8 times 3 is 249. Okay, so we're going to take 83 times 3, and then we're going to add 1 to that, which is the numerator right here, which gives us 250 over 3. Okay. Now, remember, when we talk about a percentage, right, we said a percentage was basically a number, that percentage, divided by 100. So in fact, when we say 83 1/3%, we mean 83 1/3 over 100. Only we're not going to deal with it as 83 over 1/3 over 100. We're going to deal with it as 250 over 3 divided by 100. But since the numerator is written as a fraction, let's write the denominator as a fraction. That's right. So we're going to write 250 over 3 equals 100 over 100 over 1, right? This is our fraction representing this, and I'll show you how I do it. 250 over 3 is now multiplied by 1 over 100, right? We take the reciprocal of the denominator fraction and we divide it in. So we're actually dealing with the fraction 250 over 300. And I'll tell you, I don't like dealing with big fractions if I can at all avoid it. And 300 and 250 share some common factors. For instance, right away, you can divide both of them by 10, right? Because they both end in a 0, right? Any number that ends in a 0 is divisible by 10, right? So if you divide by 10 for both of them, you get 25 out of 30. And I'm thinking, well, what numbers do 25 and 30 share as a common factor? Well, of course, that's 5. If you divide the numerator by 5, you get 5. If you divide the denominator, 30, by 5, you get 6. So in fact, writing 83 and 1/3% is actually the equivalent of saying 5/6 times b equals 40. Okay, so this is a little bit easier. This is like our fractional expression that we looked at before. So we're going to multiply by 6 over 5 on both sides. To solve this one, multiply by the reciprocal, right? 6 divides into 5. Of course, these things are both going to leave us with our base, b. We're going to take 40 times 6 over 5. But 40 is the same thing as 40 over 1. 40 divides by 5 to give you 8. So this is equivalent to taking 8 times 6, and 8 times 6 we know to be a number equal to, everybody? That's right, 48. Well, there it is. 48 is 83 and a third percent. 40 is 83 and a third percent of 48.